Hello again, everyone. Greetings from Vancouver, Canada. Welcome to tonight's monthly consecutive online picket for Hands Off Venezuela, Free Alex Saab. Hola a todos y todas. Bienvenidos desde Vancouver, Canada, a nuestra acción mensual para Free Alex Saab y Manos Fuera de Venezuela. Vamos a comenzar en 2 minutos con el sistema de interpretación. Quiero explicar cómo es posible unir con este sistema en Zoom. Si está en su celular o computadora, hay una opción en algunos segundos bajo que dicen, es un icono como un mundo, y se dice interpretación, y puede presionar interpretación, y hay 2 opciones a escuchar al programa en inglés o español. Y pueden usar esta opción, se dicen cancelar o silenciar el audio original, y esto es mejor. Bueno, we are going to get started in a second. I just wanted to say that this program will be simultaneously interpreted into English and Spanish. Thank you so much to our interpreters today, Ana and Julieta. So in just 1 second, at the bottom of your screen, whether on a computer or a phone, there'll be an icon appearing. It looks like a globe, and you press that. You can choose to listen in English or Spanish, and then also choose the option to mute original audio. It is helpful for listening to use that option. Again, welcome tonight. We'll go ahead and get that started now. And thank you to Azza here with Fire This Time, who's helping out with the tech today. Okay. Bueno, the interpretation is now live. So go to the bottom of your screen and join to participate in English or Spanish today. Again, welcome to everyone for joining the monthly online picket action, Free Alex Saab, US Canada Hands Off Venezuela, No to Sanctions, here this evening. My name is Allison Bodine. I am the coordinator of the Fire This Time Movement for Social Justice Venezuela Solidarity Campaign, as well as an author of the book Revolution and Counter-Revolution in Venezuela from Battle of Ideas Press. Today's action is being organized by a number of groups across Canada. This includes the Venezuela Peace Committee in Winnipeg, Fire This Time Movement for Social Justice Venezuela Solidarity Campaign, and Just Peace Advocates, with the support of Venezuela Solidarity organizations and individuals across Canada. I see that we have some spam in the chat and some racist in the chat, so we will deal with that. I apologize. Thank you again to those sponsoring organizations and for everyone joining us here today. The event today is broadcast from where I am in Burnaby, British Columbia, the traditional and unceded territories of the Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, and Squamish Coast Salish nations. Today is the 21st time that we have gathered monthly in order to demand an end to the cruel US sanctions against Venezuela and to the kidnapping and imprisonment of Venezuelan diplomat Alex Saab. We are meeting today, I think, in a very important time for Venezuela, for people of the world, and that will be reflected in today's program. There are the recent elections across Latin America, the recent talks between the government of Colombia and the government of Venezuela, renewing relations for the first time since 2019. But there's also the continued attacks coming from the United States. At the end of October 2022, 2 right-wing US senators, Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz, wrote a letter to President Biden warning the Biden administration not to, quote, remove or lessen any sanctions currently in place for the PDVSA, Venezuela's state-owned oil company, among other demands directed at maintaining these cruel US sanctions, which deny people in Venezuela access to basic goods, food, and medicines. The letter also called on Biden explicitly not to release Alex Saab, the Venezuelan diplomat unjustly held in US jails, that we are here today uniting for his freedom. I think this letter comes in response to recent meetings between the United States and the government of Venezuela's democratically elected president, Nicolas Maduro, which has led to some speculation that the Biden administration might lift some minor sanctions against Venezuela's oil industry. Those small steps would of course be welcome, but they are not near enough to what it means to lift all sanctions and blockade against Venezuela, release Alex Saab, and normalize relations between the government of the United States and the government of Venezuela, or in our case, the government of Canada and the government of Venezuela for that matter. So that is what we're here to discuss today. I'm really grateful to everyone for joining tonight and to all of the speakers. I think we have a really excellent panel featuring voices direct from Venezuela, people that have been organizing for years in defense of Venezuela, and others that I've really been so excited to be able to meet and work with on recent delegations to Venezuela. So I know we're all looking forward to an exciting program. Just to give people a heads up, after we do our panel of speakers, we will have some time for greetings from across Canada, and we will also then be able to take a group photo together. So if you have a sign or a minute to make one, or if you just want to join with your solidarity and a fist in the air, then you'll be welcome to. Without further ado, I want to welcome our first speaker, who is joining directly from Venezuela. ROIGAR Lopez Rivas is a representative of the Free Alex Saab Movement in Venezuela, which is leading the way in the struggle for freedom for Alex Saab and mobilizing every day in Venezuela and internationally for his freedom. ROIGAR focuses on building digital communications for the campaign for freedom of the Alex Saab and has become a specialist and someone we turn to in so many ways. So thank you. We look forward to hearing updates about the case, of course, at a very important time leading up to Alex Saab's trial, which is set to commence December 12th in Miami. ROIGAR, the floor is yours.
Gracias, Alison. Muy buenas noches a todos. La verdad que encantado de participar en este encuentro mensual que bien organizas, Alison, y desde el movimiento Free Alex Saab, pues nuestro agradecimiento por todo el esfuerzo que le pones a este evento mensual. Igualmente saludar a la doctora María, al profe Luis Acuña, a Michelle, que son los panelistas de esta noche. Al día de hoy han pasado 893 días de secuestro del enviado especial Alex Saab. Cumple hoy 402 días injustamente detenido en los Estados Unidos. Más de 2 años de secuestro. En las últimas semanas quisiera, bueno, ahondar y hablar de lo que ha pasado desde la última vez que se realizó este evento, o sea, los acontecimientos más importantes del último mes. Estamos muy cerca de la realización de la audiencia por la defensa de la inmunidad diplomática y la decisión de un juez en los Estados Unidos por la inmunidad diplomática de Alex Saab. Pues el día 17 de noviembre de 2022, o sea, hace solo 5 días, el Departamento de Justicia, el DOJ, de los Estados Unidos, introduce un documento en una corte de Miami, en una corte de Estados Unidos, expresando que el primer ministro de Arabia Saudí, Mohammed bin Salman, goza de inmunidad a ser enjuiciado en los Estados Unidos por el caso del asesinato del periodista Jamal Khashoggi, que fue asesinado y descuartizado en la embajada de Arabia Saudí en Turquía. Y los señalamientos van hacia bin Salman. Bueno, el Departamento de Justicia pues ha dicho que él tiene inmunidad y por ende no va a ser enjuiciado. Mientras tanto, tienen a un diplomático venezolano injustamente detenido y alegando que aunque es diplomático, él no tiene inmunidad en los Estados Unidos. Entonces, la defensa introdujo una moción para desestimar las acusaciones contra el enviado especial Alex Saab, justificando todo lo que ha venido haciendo, lo que vino haciendo el compañero Alex Saab, con pruebas muy contundentes sobre sus actividades diplomáticas, sobre su nombramiento y documentos especiales, inclusive algunos documentos clasificados y no clasificados de algunas agencias de los Estados Unidos, en donde días antes de su detención, días antes de su secuestro, intercambiaban correos altas personalidades del gobierno de los Estados Unidos, hablando y mencionando digamos, su condición diplomática y la importancia del trabajo que venía realizando Alex. Pues entonces el 14 de noviembre, hace una semana, la defensa introdujo un documento muy importante. Es la segunda moción para la desestimación de la acusación contra Alex. Esta moción se llama una moción de apoyo de la petición de desestimación de la acusación, respondiendo a una moción en contra que hizo el Departamento de Justicia una semana antes. Y voy a hablar primero de esta moción y luego un poco hacer un pequeño análisis de cómo comunicacionalmente hay una estrategia organizada con el Departamento de Justicia y grandes medios de la región en Estados Unidos y en el continente. Esta moción de la defensa, yo no soy abogado, pero para cualquiera que pueda saber un poco de leyes y pueda leerla, la verdad que es un documento que es una joya, es un excelente documento. Esta moción contiene, 1, jurisprudencia. Hay un caso muy conocido que que tiene por nombre Abdulaziz versus el Condado Metropolitano de Dade en Miami, en el que una persona siendo acusada y detenida fue nombrada enviada especial de Arabia Saudí, del Reino de Arabia Saudí, y posteriormente a los días pues fue liberado y fue reconocida su inmunidad diplomática. Recuerden el nombramiento que le dio el Reino de Arabia Saudí para evitar la prisión de esta persona que estaba detenida fue enviado especial. Es el mismo cargo que tiene Alex Saab. Explican muy bien en esta moción por qué el caso Abdulaziz es el caso más parecido y que por ende tiene que ser reconocida la inmunidad diplomática del enviado especial Alex Saab. También hacen una explicación magistral sobre la política del Departamento de Estado y cómo esta no priva a Alex Saab de la inmunidad según la Convención de Viena. Ellos en la anterior moción, o sea, la Fiscalía, el Departamento de Justicia, decía que según la Convención de Viena, Alex Saab no tiene inmunidad diplomática. Y aquí queda perfectamente explicado. También tocan la Convención de la ONU sobre misiones especiales. Esta no desplaza la inmunidad de Alex Saab, que fue un argumento también, digamos, puesto en la mesa por el Departamento de Justicia. Y aquí queda perfectamente respondido. También el señor Saab tiene pleno derecho a la inmunidad in tránsito en virtud de la Convención de Viena y del derecho internacional consuetudinario. También uno de los argumentos que pudieran ser más fuertes por el Departamento de Justicia es que Estados Unidos no reconoce al gobierno constitucional de la República Bolivariana de Venezuela, que preside Nicolás Maduro. pues esto lo han expresado abiertamente los fiscales tanto en las audiencias como en las mociones, o sea, en documentos escritos. Pero la defensa ha presentado una serie de documentos de todas las relaciones y comunicaciones consulares entre distintas agencias de los Estados Unidos y la Cancillería venezolana en los años 19, 2020, 2021 e incluso durante 2022. El Departamento de Estado ha tenido comunicación permanente para algunos casos, por ejemplo, el caso que fue publicado en algunas de las cuentas del movimiento Free Alex Saab y de la campaña, casos de niños venezolanos que fueron llevados por sus padres a Estados Unidos y había una petición de alguno de los otros padres y el niño o niña tenía que regresar a Venezuela. Pues el Departamento de Estado, ¿con quién se comunicó? Pues bueno, con la Cancillería del gobierno del presidente Nicolás Maduro. Entonces, ¿esto acaso es un desconocimiento? ¿Hay desconocimiento o esto es un reconocimiento tácito de que el gobierno de Venezuela es el que preside el presidente Nicolás? Además de las reuniones ya públicas y notorias que se han hecho en los últimos meses entre altos funcionarios del gobierno de Venezuela, inclusive el presidente, y funcionarios del gobierno de los Estados Unidos. También en la moción, el estatus del Alex Saab no depende de la certificación del Departamento de Estado. Ya por sí, el hecho de tener un juicio en donde un juez va a decidir si una persona tiene inmunidad diplomática o no, siendo digamos, una afectación, un intento de vulnerar la soberanía de un país, pues ya por sí es ilógico, pero de igual forma se explica. Y asimismo, último punto de esta moción dice que las doctrinas de los actos de Estado siguen siendo irrelevantes. El Departamento de Justicia alega de que aún así Cabo Verde, la República de Cabo Verde, reconoció que Alex Saab era diplomático, pero de esta forma igualmente procedieron a su extradición, y esa es la palabra que usa el Departamento de Justicia para nosotros y para la defensa. La palabra que nosotros utilizamos es una extracción ilegal. Ahí realmente no hubo un proceso de extradición, ni siquiera había concluido el proceso. Además de que ya sabemos, pues el Alto Tribunal de Derechos Humanos de la Comunidad de Estados de África Occidental había obligado a Cabo Verde a liberar a Alex Saab, y también grupos de trabajo de la ONU habían comunicado a Cabo Verde que debían parar ese proceso, cosa que no ocurrió. Pues entonces ellos alegan de que aunque reconocen a Alex Saab como diplomático, pues era sujeto a ser extraditado y por ende, pues en Estados Unidos tampoco tendría inmunidad. Pero ¿acaso Estados Unidos es una dependencia de Cabo Verde? Son países independientes y cada uno tiene que trabajar y decidir según sus propias leyes y sus constituciones. Así que bueno, este importante documento fue introducido hace algunos días. Todavía no ha salido una respuesta por parte del Departamento de Justicia. Esperamos que, bueno, se hizo una audiencia de estatus y se espera que el día 12 hasta el día 16 de diciembre se den los 5 días del juicio, donde se presentan alegatos orales, algunas entrevistas a funcionarios del gobierno bolivariano de Venezuela que van a hablar desde la embajada en Suiza, en Caracas. Y pues bueno, ahora para ir cerrando, quería hablar de algunos aspectos comunicacionales que han hecho y que ha pasado en las últimas semanas. Ante la primera moción introducida 2 semanas antes de esta que les hablé, el Departamento de Justicia salió con unos alegatos que no respondían a la moción, sino se basaban en ellos llaman inconsistencias en algunas de las pruebas. Por ejemplo, que el diplomático Alex Saab, para el momento de su secuestro, tenía un pasaporte diplomático que estaba vencido y tenía un pasaporte regular que estaba vigente. ¿Esto acaso ellos quisieron hacer ver comunicacionalmente, porque en la ley es una locura alegar esto, de que el hecho de que tuvieras un pasaporte diplomático vencido al momento de la detención, significa que no tiene inmunidad diplomática o que no es un diplomático. ¿Acaso no hace un diplomático los actos de Estado, un nombramiento, las actividades, la valija diplomática y documentos que te acreditan como tal? Pues bueno, así es. Entonces, ellos han sacado todos estos documentos con estas supuestas inconsistencias, pero digamos con una agresividad comunicacional que sale al mismo momento que entra la moción en el juicio. Associated Press, AP, sale con la noticia. Obviamente hay una coordinación entre el Departamento de Justicia y la agencia AP, que luego, obviamente, los principales medios de la región se pliegan a esa misma y la multiplican en miles y miles de páginas web de todos los tamaños posibles, grandes y pequeñas, y pues bueno, digamos, hacen una especie de bullying comunicacional con argumentos erróneos, argumentos errados jurídicamente. Cuando se me introduce esta moción, la última moción de la que les hablé, AP no le queda otra sino sacar la noticia y decir que, de cierta forma, había un reconocimiento tácito del gobierno del presidente Nicolás Maduro por el Departamento de Estado, por ende, el gobierno de los Estados Unidos. Pues obviamente eso sale, pero ningún medio replicó. Ni siquiera AP sacó una nota, simplemente sacó un tweet, el periodista Joshua Goodman. Obviamente no tiene la misma repercusión, no tiene 3.000 retweets como tuvo la anterior nota, y la bulla comunicacional, todo el ruido comunicacional que se ha dado. Así que, obviamente, volvemos aquí a denunciar que hay un acto de bullying comunicacional en el caso de Alex Saab. Cuando tienen que comunicar con la verdad, no lo hacen, simplemente evitan el comentario y tienden a confundir a la gente o pensar que su público es gente estúpida que no puede entender que, por ejemplo, el asunto del pasaporte es una cosa menor y que no tiene que ver con su inmunidad diplomática. Para cerrar, la semana pasada estuvimos en la Feria Internacional del Libro de Venezuela. Quiero presentarles un libro que hizo la abogada Indriana Parada. Se llama Alex Saab, El secuestro de Alex Saab, análisis jurídico. Es un libro que explica muy bien todo el proceso del secuestro, pero además desmenuza, estudia a fondo las leyes y los argumentos del gobierno de Cabo Verde, las leyes y los argumentos del gobierno de los Estados Unidos y del Departamento de Justicia, y luego, pues obviamente, las leyes nuestras nacionales, los convenios internacionales, y define al compañero Alex Saab como un diplomático secuestrado y como un prisionero de guerra. Y esto es, digamos, un argumento bastante fuerte que debe ser, digamos, estudiado, replicado por todo lo que tiene que ver con las irregularidades de este suceso, de este secuestro. El libro está ahorita solamente en físico, pero esperamos pronto poder sacarlo en digital, y solamente ahorita está en español. También quisiéramos, obviamente por la repercusión de que Alex está en Estados Unidos, pudiera salir una versión en inglés. El presidente Nicolás Maduro bautizó el libro y le dio un saludo a la compañera Camila, a quien también quiero mandarle un saludo a la compañera Camila Fabri, quien el presidente la definió como defensora de los derechos humanos. La verdad que la compañera Camila ha hecho un trabajo maravilloso e impresionante con la campaña Free Alex Saab de liberación de su esposo. Camila participó en la reunión del Foro de Sao Paulo, y el Foro de Sao Paulo sacó una declaración especial denunciando el secuestro de Alex Saab y pidiendo su liberación inmediata. Y bueno, esperamos que del día 12 al 16 de diciembre, pues bueno, estemos conectados y podamos hablar sobre los acontecimientos que ocurran en el juicio de Alex. Muchas gracias a todos, gracias por escucharme, y no queda más nada que decir sino Free Alex Saab.
Free Alex Saab. Thank you, Roy, for that summary of some of the most important parts of the case of Venezuelan diplomat Alex Saab. We know that we are the ones on the side of justice. We know that we are correct, that we are right, and that with that conviction, we know we will also win. But it is a big battle to be up against because the US government and the system of courts does not believe in justice. This is very clearly a political case meant to target Alex Saab for his work to circumvent criminal sanctions against Venezuela, his work to make sure Venezuela could secure more food contracts, more oil, and work as they should with other countries that are also under criminal US sanctions. We applaud all of your work in Venezuela and your leadership from the Free Alex Saab movement. I hope next month, I think we're going to hear from Adriana Parada again, the author of the book. We are very excited about the book. And as soon as it is available online in English or Spanish, we will begin to share it across North America, where it is most important that we mobilize for freedom for Alex Saab. So thank you, Roy, and venceremos, we will win.
Veremos.
Next, I want to introduce a speaker that I've had the pleasure of getting to know through traveling together to Venezuela, first in 2019 for a delegation against US sanctions, but have been following and staying in touch as best as we could, both with busy schedules and other commitments, but knowing that I have a co-fighter by my side, it's been great to get to know Michelle Mujanato, who is a union member and international solidarity organizer, now living in New York City. She has a background in Arab studies and has studied and worked in Amman, Jordan, and Nablus, Palestine. Michelle has over a decade of experience in organizations serving Palestinians and working at the nexus of economic and racial justice. A friend of the Bolivarian process, Michelle has visited Venezuela multiple times, meeting with civic and community leaders, union organizers, and women's organizations to learn more about the impact of sanctions, advancements in popular democracy, and connection to global struggle against US imperialism. It's my pleasure, Michelle. Welcome to today's online picket.
Thank you so much, Allison. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here with Professor Luis Acuña, ROIGAR, and Dr. Maria PÁEZ VICTOR. Really important that we're talking about the Alex Saab case because Alex Saab is a really wonderful example of the community of people who give so generously to the Venezuelan people and who are so moved by Venezuela's example. I count Alex Saab right up there with Diego Maradona and also even General Soleimani, who all visited Venezuela in times of need and helped the Bolivarian Revolution continue preserving the process and pushing forward. I like to count on, you can count the people, you can count the ability of the process by the friends Venezuela maintains and the friends that remember Venezuela and the Bolivarian Revolution the world over. It is really a pleasure to be in community with Chavistas and others who are defending their process to transform the world. As Allison mentioned, I am a union member here in New York. I am a member of the working class. It is very difficult to live in the United States, especially as a woman of color. I think Venezuela is an important example of the change that's possible when we invest in participatory democracy, when we allow people to think that they themselves can offer solutions and create the process to break with capitalism and transition more effectively to socialism. While many people will say that Venezuela is still a capitalist model, it's still a rentier model, I think it's important to look at things more closely and look at the projects as they're developing. We do see worker control of factories, which are things that occurred after Chavez took power. and that are only possible through the Bolivarian process. We have industries like Canaima, we have Indepa, we have Indorca, we have all of these factories which were taken by workers and then managed by workers, and under a process of managing the social production of labor, which is really critical when we're talking about making sure we're producing things for people in the quantities they need, and equitably across regions. So it's always a pleasure to travel to Venezuela too, especially when we're given, I mean, the media is really the biggest enemy that we have. It's true in Venezuela, it's true in a place like Nicaragua, it's true in a place like Egypt, it's also true in a place like Iran, actually, where the majority of press within Iran is actually foreign press. And so you have the media instituting war from within the borders of a country, helping to bring down a popular project. And so for that reason, I really think it's important for people within the United States and within the global north to do investigation about what are the causes for Venezuela's different crises. Is it actually something that's inherent to the revolutionary process, or is it something that is a leftover or a remainder of the capitalist model? And I mentioned too about the press because the press lies to us here in the United States. Why? Like for example, most recently, President Biden had promised student loan relief to the tune of $10,000 a person. But right now that's being held up in the courts, in what are conservative courts. And so it's very telling that right after the midterms, the promise of $10,000 loan relief is reversed after victories in the election. So there's no popular power or popular movement to hold this bourgeois imperialist structure accountable. And so it's important to look at the lies that they tell about Venezuela, to then examine too the lies that are being told and taken wholesale by the American public, and to understand that most people in the United States are working class people, and that we have more in common with people within Venezuela who are battling to survive every day, and leave the capitalist system. But so beyond that, I mean, I do think that Venezuela is a great example of how horrible and how vicious this bourgeois media is. But I think Venezuela is also an interesting example when thinking about popular power and creating solutions. It's very common for people to say, Maduro didn't do this and Maduro didn't do that. But I think we're looking at things within Venezuela the wrong way, because it's like, well, what is the popular solution on the streets? Where are people developing solutions to serve their communities? What are people doing in the advent of increased sanctions? So I was really pleased to see some of the developments and some of the real ingenuity that is happening in Venezuela. One of the projects that we learned about, I believe in Lara State, with the Ministry for Women, is Plan Parto Humanizado, which talks about humane birth. And so prior to the onset of the pandemic, I think it was 6 in 10 births in Venezuela were done by cesarean section, which speaks to the tailorization of the birth model worldwide, but also that this had been so widely applied in Venezuela that when you have increased sanctions, people are unable to really get the supplies they need to have a healthy cesarean section. And so President Maduro, in coordination with the Ministry of Women, really tried to use midwives to help increase the rate of home birth, but also natural birth, as a direct way to combat the pandemic, or to combat the siege, and to increase the chance of health for the mother and baby. Also, this plan helps educate women and their families against the phenomenon of obstetric violence, which is actually something that most people in the United States suffer from. In the United States, we still have 3 out of 10 births are by cesarean section, and most people don't know what obstetric violence is, but there is a deeply misogynistic approach in the medical industry and also toward birth, and to see that there's solutions that are surging up from the grassroots, from people who received these, who would have benefited from receiving such practices while they were also pregnant, is really nice to see in Venezuela, and I hope that these sorts of things increase. In that vein, I also had the pleasure of meeting Jesus Chucho Garcia, who is a heavyweight in the Afro-Venezuelan community from the region of Barlovento. And while we were meeting with him and he was talking about community solutions to sanctions, he was talking about developing models and medicines that are taken from elders, whether that's use of like guava leaves or coconut or cacao, in creating alternatives to pharmaceutical solutions. So there's really opportunities that have arisen within the crisis to develop connections within community and across generations. And I think there's a renovation of traditional knowledge in Venezuela, and that will be very important to navigate this crossroads, right, where we're in a period of excessive sanctions, but also I think these contradictions that arise will help quicken the process of breaking with a rentier model. And then beyond that, I think one thing that's very fascinating to me is just the depth of popular support there is for the project. There have been several election cycles within Venezuela. I think there was just a recent election, so that might have been the 30th election under Chavismo. And I think a lot of critics will look at participation rate at this or that election as a direct barometer of the support for PSUV or for Maduro. But there are many things that play. In an election I observed in December 2020, it was in the middle of a pandemic, and also the night before, gasoline came in. So it just made the choice between waiting in line for gasoline or waiting in line to vote that much more difficult. So I think that the project still stands and still is able to gain adherence or gain support, is indicative of how popular the PSUV government is. And I think you will find more enthusiasm to participate in a presidential election versus one of these smaller level local elections or municipal elections, because at its base, Chavismo is a very fundamentally democratic project. And I think that's what's so hard in the United States, is to understand actually Chavismo is inherently more democratic than anything anyone in the United States has ever experienced. And part of understanding that is doing more research into Venezuela and also coming here and traveling here. But it's just fascinating, because when you understand that, yes, everyone has a role to play in creating democracy, many solutions arise, and there is a different horizon for us. And as a union worker in the United States, I'm interested in different horizons, and I really, really value the friendships I have with my Venezuelan comrades and colleagues. And I salute Venezuela. I salute them because there is an alternative to Washington's agenda, and the show. Without Venezuela, how we wouldn't have had hardly any of these leftist projects have a resurgence. And so I am really grateful to the example of Venezuela, and I hope to continue working alongside everyone in Venezuela, and really hope that more people from the United States and people from Canada become curious and seek to travel themselves and build real relationship with the people of Venezuela.
Thank you, Michelle. Very good, and very good encouragement for exactly what we hope people will be able to do, which is see Venezuela for themselves. We talked a lot tonight about media manipulation, and it's very true. The major media is working hand in hand with the government of the US and the government of Canada to really scaremonger against Venezuela and try and convince people in the US and Canada that are facing a more difficult life with rising inflation and other ills of this capitalist system, to convince them that they can't look towards countries like Venezuela for solutions. And so I agree. It's been great to be able to connect with Venezuela to see it for ourselves. And I encourage anyone who can to go. And thank you for your perspective. And I also, really think that I just want to say that our work is possible. Our work in defense of Venezuela's sovereignty and defense of the Bolivarian Revolutionary Project, because the people of Venezuela fight every day under all sorts of conditions to say, no, this is the government that we are choosing, and this is what we want our country to do, no matter the consequences from the United States. So we've both been fortunate enough to witness that ourselves, and thanks for sharing a bit of that energy and perspective with us here tonight. The next speaker we have is Dr. Maria PÁEZ VICTOR, who is up here in Canada with me. She is one of the founders of the Louis Riel Bolivarian Circle, which was founded in 2003 in Toronto, Canada. She is a sociologist born in Venezuela, but has graduate degrees from Venezuela, the United Kingdom, and Canada. She is an author, now retired from university teaching and consulting, which we're fortunate for because she can devote more of her time to Venezuela solidarity. And that is made possible for Maria to be the producer of the only radio program in Canada exclusively on Venezuela called Venezuela Viva, which is available to listen in Toronto, but also online. And we'll post the information in the chat about that show. I was really happy to be a guest last week with Nino Paglicia on the show, and it's a great contribution to our work here in Canada. So Dr. Maria PÁEZ VICTOR, looking forward to your perspective today. The floor is yours. Sorry, you were on mute.
Thank you so much, Allison, and thank you for inviting me, especially with these wonderful panelists that we have here. I have so much enjoyed listening to them, and will enjoy listening to Don Luis in a little while. Well, you've asked me to concentrate on Canada, on Canada's relationship with Venezuela. Well, throughout the years, I've known some people who were very vocal and eloquent supporters of humanity and its various causes. Yet personally, they were quite disagreeable people, very unforgiving of the humanity that actually surrounded them, their acquaintances, their neighbors. It always made me wonder about their public sincerity when their private actions were so at odds with it. Well, something like that happens to me at the broader scale when I think of Canada's foreign policy. Big words, but mean actions. What great eloquence we get from the Prime Minister and his ministers. The government of Canada presents itself, to its people, to the world, as great defenders of human rights, great lovers of humanity, of law and order, of humanitarian actions. Yet what shabby, incongruous, filthy foreign policies it has had. Canada's role in Libya, Yugoslavia, Afghanistan is not anything to boast about. Furthermore, Canada has voted against every UN resolution upholding Palestinian rights. And its support of Saudi Arabia, even when it's chopping up journalists, extends to making arms deals with them. And in Latin America, Canada has been responsible for outrages in Haiti, Honduras, in Áñez's Bolivia, in Bolsonaro's Brazil, and for 20 years, its persecution of the beleaguered Venezuela. Hence, Canada's silence on the kidnapping by the USA of the Venezuelan ambassador, Alex Saab. Now, here's the thing. Venezuela counts very little in terms of Canada's political or diplomatic priorities. As we all very well know, the most important factor, overwhelming really, that matters to Canada internationally is its relationship with Washington. Nothing else comes remotely close to it. However, there is another factor. Canada is the world's leading mining headquarters and what drives its poisonous actions against Venezuela is also the greed of both Canadian financial institutions and Canadian mining that have their eye on the extensive and rich gold mines of Venezuela and all its other prodigiously rich mining resources. The Venezuelan Constitution has determined that all natural resources belong to the Venezuelan people to be used for their welfare and not mainly for the purposes and gains of international corporations. There is the rub. Canadian trade with Venezuela has always been minimal. There has been little tourism between the two countries, mostly due to Venezuela's minuscule tourism industry. Therefore, not many Canadians travel there. The number of Venezuelans living in Canada is also a very small number compared with people who come from other countries. In short, Venezuela is of slight importance to Canada, other than the mining establishment and its desire to please Washington. So what has happened is that at one point, in order to, as our celebrated writer Linda McQuaig would say, in order to hold on to the bully's coattails, i.e. of Uncle Sam's coattails, Canada agreed to do its dirty work in Latin America, and foremost, to go after Venezuela. Trudeau and his ministers, not content with ruling Canada, want to play with the big boys. And in their delusions, actually believe that Canada is somehow very important internationally because they say so. Now, Canada is a big country, is the second biggest in size, but has comparatively a small population and economy and a very small military capacity. Canadian politicians give sundry speeches supporting the international community, the rule of law, better still, the international rule of law, the support for human rights. And they decry governments that Washington declares are anti-democratic, governed by demagogues, dictators, terrorists even, and have proposed various sorts of humanitarian interventions to supposedly save entire populations, however unwilling these populations are of such interventions. This is a new masquerade of the old adage of white man's burden, of we do this for your own good, as if the peoples of other nations did not have the sovereign right to conduct their own domestic affairs. The USA, the EU, and of course Canada are big on accusations and nil on actual evidence, especially when they denounce President Maduro. How hollow these accusations sound to Venezuelans, to Hondurans, to Haitians, to Evo Morales, to Nicolas Maduro. How hollow the narrative of human rights is to the indigenous population of Canada, who have long suffered willful neglect from the government, both historically, to mention the horrific genocide of hundreds of indigenous children in residential schools, and to this day, when too many indigenous peoples make up the prison population in Canada, when many of their communities even lack pure water and many public facilities. Where is the defense of their human right to water, to education, to health services, to self-determination of the indigenous peoples of Canada? It is an appalling irony that the US and Canada accuse Russia of, and I quote, weaponizing food in Ukraine, and are utterly and willfully blind as to how the US and Canada and the EU have weaponized not just food, but also medicine and the COVID vaccines against Venezuelan people, doing everything in their power to bring the government down by impoverishing, starving, and making Venezuelans ill. 100,000 Venezuelans have died directly due to these illegal US, EU, Canadian sanctions that stop the country from buying food and medicine and of selling its oil. Canada has expressed no regret, sympathy, or concern for these deaths and suffering, none, but has the audacity to accuse President Maduro of these ills. Now, It is true that it was the USA that physically kidnapped this bona fide diplomat from a third country, Cabo Verde, on the 16th of October in 2021, and up to now has been cruelly in a US jail for more than 2 years. So why do we bring up Canada in this scenario? What does Canada have to do? Because this is a criminal kidnapping. It is practically an unassailable conclusion of this unilateral action that mirrors that of vigilantes of the Old West movies. If you like, it is a diplomatic lynching. And so we ask, where is Canada's concern for the international rule of law in all of this? The kidnapping has been an appalling act, firstly, on the purely human level. This man is suffering physically, mentally, emotionally, as attested by lawyers and his own wife. What about the actual human being, Alex Saab, and his well-being and his rights, or do they not matter? We can also talk about the torture of Julian Assange in this way, but that will be for another panel another day. But what about the broader picture? Why should Canada care, its government and its people, that a Venezuelan diplomat is jailed despite having diplomatic immunity? What is its importance in the scheme of things? What does it tell us about the political system under which we live? First of all, it's important to underline that diplomatic immunity has been a very established international practice, dating from antiquity, almost universal. You know, the white flag. This was customary law, long-standing, almost everywhere that there has been a conflict. And let us remember that during the 2 world wars, absolutely horrific wars, the diplomats and the embassies of the belligerent parties were respected, and even diplomats were allowed to be evacuated through neutral countries. After World War II, the principle of diplomatic immunity was enshrined in the 1961 Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, which Roy was talking about. That formally acknowledged and codified the political status of diplomats and has been ratified by the UN, that is, most of the existing nations in the world. Violation of diplomatic immunity is considered a serious crime. Now, Washington accuses Saab of money laundering, of engaging in commercial activities for his own purpose. But Alex Saab's lawyer, Iliana Parada, the one who's just written this book, has presented documents that prove that Mike Pompeo, who was the Secretary of State for Trump, admitted to Saab's diplomatic status. So when Canada talks about it being a country that respects international law, when has it decried the kidnapping and imprisonment of the diplomat Alex Saab? The US kidnapping of a bona fide diplomat may open a slippery slope in the international scene, whereby a precedent is set. And what is good for the goose may be good for the gander, therefore puts in danger all diplomats. If Saab can be taken, so can anyone else, even diplomats from the US, Canada, and the EU. But the Canadian position indicates a deep malaise within the political culture of Canada. First of all, the Canadian politicians suffer from the self-delusion that their international status and power is very significant. It is an illusion because they know that they are in fact subservient to the US economy and politics. Its inability to obtain a seat twice in 2010 and 2020 at the UN Security Council is a proof of this. Canadian power self-delusion is very sadly also tinged with racism. They go after the poorer, smaller countries, especially of late in its incursions in Latin America, so that they can exercise this fictional sense of power. As Owen Schock has mentioned, and I quote, "The truth is that Canada, like the USA, is governed by a ruling class that scorns popular left-wing movements in the global South, especially what their capitalist allies call resource nationalism." This means that the people should benefit from their own resources, not international corporations. An attitude of, how dare the mobs of little brown people defy our capitalist neoliberal system, is abundantly clear. Secondly, the Canadian government in its present configuration has shown quite clearly its moral failure, its hypocrisy in pretending to be protectors of some vague rule of law, when in fact they are violating clear, specific tenets of established, universally accredited international laws. This moral cowardice contributes to the disdain that is growing around the world for Canada, who once upon a time was one of the founders of the United Nations and reveled in real peacekeeping duties. Today, Canada is seen as a warmonger, as a supporter of political criminals, as a partner in regime change adventures, as an enemy of Indigenous governments, whose peacekeeping has turned out to be the militarizing of police and the arming of the military for compliant and anti-democratic leaders. For example, there have been angry protests by thousands of Haitians, not against the USA, but against Canada. They have on various occasions marched against the Canadian embassy and have been decrying Canada's role in ousting the democratically elected president, Jean-Bertrand Aristide. A coup d'etat that has been the source of so much suffering and chaos in that country. Thirdly, the present Canadian government shows evidence of stagnation and inability to learn from experience, thus repeats its mistakes. This folly is what Barbara Tuchman calls protective stupidity. Canadian foreign policy has been, in fact, mostly a string of failures. Politicians, and let us not forget the supine and mendacious mainstream Canadian media that so much loves a war and a coup d'etat show, they demonstrate little curiosity of wanting to learn, to find out the roots of issues, to hear the voices that counter the political narrative that is spouted. Why don't they go to Venezuela to see the real situation? Why do they not go to the many elections that have taken place there under the eyes of hundreds of international observers? Because to change towards Venezuela would mean to admit defeat, to admit that they were wrong, to see in Venezuela a true participatory socialist democracy at work, for which Alex Saab, as ambassador, was working to obtain the food and the medicines that the Venezuelan people so desperately need. Yes, his sin was trying to feed and heal his people. Look at the whimpering death of the Lima Group, which Canada itself founded on August 8th, 2017. Its members were all dubious, had all dubious democratic credentials. These presidents, some of them were criminals. They all fell by the wayside of the ballots of their people for their corruption and their repressions. Did Canada say, oops, we made a mistake, we picked the wrong friends? No, just a deep silence, especially from that verbose fascist supporter, Freeland, founder of the Lima Group. So we come back to that suffering man, Alex Saab, Canada's failure to exert any action or even words of sympathy on his behalf or on Julian Assange's behalf. This shows just how rotten the Canadian political culture at present finds itself in. It is willing to accept any ignominy perpetuated by its partner in crime, Washington, no matter how devious or power hungry are the imperial people at Capitol Hill. Let us not accept Canadian platitudes and hypocrisies. Let us demand more of these moral cowards, because in the end, we all get splashed with their muck, and a good man is being sacrificed for nothing on the altar of their crass political and moral ineptitude. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maria PÁEZ Victor, for that very comprehensive, impassioned call for support for for diplomat Alex Saab. I think, I mean, it tells me that I should definitely announce about Alex Saab's trial, listening to the words of Maria and Michelle and Roy so far. Alex Saab's trial begins December 12th in Miami, and there is a call for anyone who wants to come join in Miami to demonstrate at the trial. Of course, there will be actions around the United States and Canada on that day. We should do all we can, whether it's through social media or through demonstrations. But if you are able or interested to travel to Miami for the trial to demonstrate there the support that we have for Alex Saab, then we'll put my email in the chat and you can email me and we'll be in touch about how that might be possible. Azza here has also just posted the information on Venezuela Viva, the radio show, as we said, the only radio show dedicated to Venezuela here in Canada, and how you can listen to it online on a platform called Streama. Encourage people to do so to support the show and this continuing important conversation, because being here in Canada, we know that we have a lot of work to do to convince people that it's not okay to just be a little bit nicer than the United States or a little bit better. Canada was founded on the same genocide of Indigenous peoples and continues those same policies on people around the world, including in Venezuela. So thank you, Maria, for making that so clear. For our final panelist today, we are once again joined by Professor Luis Acuna, who is the Canadian, the charge d'affaires to Venezuela's embassy here in Canada, but is unable to join us here in Canada still due to difficulties imposed by the government of Canada and really a hostility in relations between the democratically elected government of President Maduro and the government of Canada. Again, we call for a normalization of these relations between Canada and Venezuela as part of our work. But we are really honored every month that Professor Luis Acuna makes time for us to come and give us his perspective from on the ground in Venezuela. He is the former governor of the state of Sucre and a longtime fighter in the Bolivarian revolutionary process. So Professor Luis Acuna, thank you so much for joining us again today.
Hello, Alison. Thanks very much. Again, I want to thank you for this webinar. This is the best thing that happens for us, that you are able to join people to speak about the truth in Venezuela, and Canadians and all the ones that join the webinar knows. For example, we are very, very pleased that you invited Roy, and people know that in Venezuela, we are working hard for defending Alex Saab, because we know that Alex Saab is a man that did not do any crime as the US wants to show. Alex Saab is the only thing that he did was to help Venezuelans, looking for food, looking for medicines, and trying to bring those to Venezuela. So we are pleased that today Roy said, what are we doing at this moment in the defense of Alex? And also he can show that, for example, Indriana Parada was able, with this all work that they are doing, to write a very important book that shows what we are doing in behalf of Alex Saab, because we have to defend Alex Saab, and we know that he will be free. No way. Also, I am very pleased that you invited Michelle, because the example of Michelle is those who come to Venezuela and see the truth in Venezuela. People are abroad think that Venezuela is hell, and it's not. So the experience of Michelle is very important, that people know that things in Venezuela are not what the press abroad said about us. And Maria, what to say? Maria always is a very, very important speaker every place she goes. And today she decided to speak about the foreign policy of Canada. Very, very important, Maria, because Canadian, who are the mainly who goes in this webinar, should know what's going on in Canada. You can say what I cannot say because you are a Canadian and I am a Venezuelan and a Venezuelan diplomat. So your words are my words. And one thing important is that the foreign policy of Canada has been very, very, terrible against Venezuela. The main way in which the US tried to go against us first was with coup d'etats and invasions and everything, but then they decide to name an interim president. And Canada was the leader of that. Yeah. Canada was the one that made it possible. And today, that interim president is the one that they recognize. So they have diplomats in Canada. They recognize diplomats in Canada for that interim president, but they don't recognize the diplomats of Presidente Maduro. So they don't recognize us, and that's why we cannot go to Canada. And the same thing is happening in the US, and that has a very, very important consequence in the case of Alex Saab, because what they try to do is to recognize the diplomats of Guaido and not recognize any other diplomats. And that's a play that they are doing there. Canada was the only country in the world that was able to not allow elections in 2018 when we elected Presidente Maduro. And it was very important that you spoke about that, because we set up all the voting places in Canada, in Toronto, in Vancouver, in Montreal, in Ottawa, but we were not able for Venezuelans to go and vote because Canada prohibited to do that. And even though the Venezuelan space is a Venezuelan space, and we could go inside and vote, we don't know what the Venezuelans who were in Canada expected after they vote. Finally, we were not able to set up the voting because the voting tables need people, and people were not allowed to do that unless they go against the Canadian laws. Canada was terrible against Venezuela and has been terrible against Venezuela because, it's not important for me to be a diplomat in Canada. It's not my problem, not being recognized as a diplomat. My problem is that we don't have the way to solve the Venezuelan problems, the problems that Venezuela has in Canada. If we have a child that is born in Canada at this moment, we don't have the way to register him as a Venezuelan. We cannot do anything if somebody dies in Canada. No way to do anything because we don't have the recognition to do the things that we have to do at the embassy. We do passports every day at the embassy, but we can do that because that is a thing that is by SAIME. What we are like employees of SAIME, and we don't need the recognition of our signature for doing the passport. So we keep doing passports for Venezuelans who live in Canada, and for the Venezuelans who live in the US, because in the US we don't have the chance to do passports either. So thanks, Maria, for this very important speech of yours today about the Canadian foreign policy, because it's very important that Canadians know what's going on in Canada. And of course, Alison, thanks very much. We really thank you. You are our voice. In abroad, this space is our voice, and we thanks that we have a voice abroad. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Professor Acuna, for those words of support and encouragement for our work here in Canada and the United States. It's really an honor to be able to work with you through this difficulty of many thousands of miles. We want you back here in Canada to do this work. We hope that it will happen soon, but we will work through all these difficulties best that we can. And always good to point out just how hypocritical the government of Canada is when they say that they support democracy in Venezuela or really any country around the world, but they won't let Venezuelans vote here, even within Venezuelan diplomatic territory. So thank you for raising that again and for all of your work day to day. Thank you to the panel as a whole. I think we've had a really excellent educational panel, but also really motivating for our continued work. Again, leading up December 12th, when Alex Saab's trial begins in Miami, we need to show as much support as possible to demand that he be released immediately and that the United States obey international law. But we know that we are up against a lot because the US regularly violates international law with impunity. But we have a strong campaign, and the people of Venezuela are behind Alex Saab. So it's our duty here to echo that and to do what we can to grow a stronger and more united movement in defense of Alex Saab and against these criminal sanctions imposed by the United States on Venezuela, and in fact on about a third of countries around the world. So we are going to start promoting folks to give a few greetings, and then we'll take our group photo for tonight. There is some questions in the chat. We'll try and address them maybe in future Picket. So thank you very much for those contributions. But I wanted to, just as we invite a few folks up, I wanted to also play a video we received. He was not able to attend tonight's action, but Nino Paglicia did send us a video of support for the picket and had some words to share. So I'm going to share that video. It will be in Spanish for our interpreters to get ready. Thank you.
Saludos a todos. Lamento que no puedo estar en esta acción mensual de protesta en línea por Venezuela y Alex Saab. Mi nombre es Nino Paglicia, del Frente Hugo Chávez para la Defensa de los Pueblos, basado en Vancouver. Nosotros también tenemos una presencia virtual en los medios sociales para promover la campaña para la liberación del diplomático Alex Saab. Y seguimos de cerca el trabajo que realiza ROIGAR Lopez, representante del movimiento Free Alex Saab en Venezuela, junto a millares de otros participantes virtuales. Yo también tengo el placer de colaborar con María PÁEZ VICTOR en el programa de Radio Venezuela Viva en Toronto, donde ya varias veces hemos hablado de Alex Saab y la urgencia de lograr su liberación del secuestro de Estados Unidos. La semana pasada tuvimos en el programa también a Alison Bodin en una entrevista donde nos habló del movimiento de solidaridad con Venezuela en Canadá. Busquen a la radio Voces Latinas, CHHA 1610 AM de Toronto y sintonicen si pueden. Mi saludo a todos los panelistas y especialmente a nuestro compatriota profesor Luis Acuña. Yo quiero añadir mi voz también Hands off Venezuela. Manos fuera de Venezuela. Free Alex Saab.
Free Alex Saab. Thank you to Nino. Up next, we have Karen Rodman. Karen is here with Just Peace Advocates, one of the sponsoring organizations for tonight's webinar and monthly online picket action. Karen, are you there? Okay, you're unmuted now and you should be able to turn on your video. Sorry about that.
Sorry, yeah, it was just saying I had to wait. So sorry, and there we go. Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's very much our honor with Just Peace Advocates, a human rights group here in Canada, to be part of supporting these efforts. I think of the word samud in Arabic, the Palestinian word samud, and the steadfastness of doing these each and every month and keeping this front and center. I'm thankful for Ambassador Acuna for bringing information pretty much every month to remind us of the practical situation and the speakers that you bring. And I've especially enjoyed the panel tonight and also the years that I've known Maria and learned from Maria in terms of her work in regard to Venezuela, but all of the intersectionalities that show that our own foreign policy here in Canada, along with being arrogant and being filled with audacity, is also filled with many double standards. And of course, it is that Lima group that actually, as I understand it in the research that we have done, that really showed that it was really a setup also to take Venezuela to the International Criminal Court, even as Canada blocks the way for doing that for Palestine. So many things that we share together. So we, I guess, join here together to say hands off Venezuela, sanctions kill, and free Alex Saab. And we are thinking of everyone, and especially Alex Saab and his family, as move towards December the 12th. And let's get out on the streets where we can across Canada.
Thank you, Karen. Next, I have Andrew Barry here from Mobilization Against War and Occupation, anti-war organization here in Vancouver.
Thank you, Allison. The point was made earlier in the webinar that it's very important for us to focus also on Canada's role in what's been happening with sanctions against Venezuela. Just because the United States is a bigger criminal actor against Venezuela, we also in Canada need to really focus on the brutal role that Canada has played in trying to isolate Venezuela and impose sanctions on Venezuela. As an anti-war organization based here in Vancouver, we focused quite a bit over the last 20 years on wars that have been started by the United States, but Canada has played a very significant role in almost every single war and occupation that the United States has led across the world, whether it be militarily supporting the US in Iraq, sending troops to Afghanistan, participating in coups d'etats in Haiti, Honduras, sending its military to Somalia and to Mali, and supporting attacks and violence throughout Syria, and sending military weapons to Ukraine, and supporting the Israel's consistent attacks on Palestinians that have been happening for over 70 years now. And I think it's very important that we really do recognize Canada's poisonous role against Venezuela. And Canada has a huge business interest in attacking Latin America, the Middle East, Africa, and Asia. And they've been doing this since its existence. Canada's role was born in genocide against Indigenous people here. Britain created Canada in 1867. Before this, there was a genocide happening against Indigenous people for hundreds of years. And since Canada was created, it has intensified the genocide through residential schools, the Indian Act, and other attacks on Indigenous people here in Canada. So for Canada to say that it has a moral objection to Venezuela I think it's very clear who Canada is. We know its history. We know how it's acted against poor and oppressed people here and across the world. And as Canada supports the United States' actions against Alex Saab through silence, I think it's another clear indication of who Canada is. And as Luis Acuna just mentioned, we have a duty here in Canada to expose the crimes that the United States and Canada have committed against Venezuela. And we must continue to raise our voice and bring justice, end the sanctions on Venezuela, and to free Alex Saab from US prison. Free Alex Saab, US and Canada, hands off Venezuela.
Free Alex Saab, end all sanctions. Thank you, Andrew Barry. Thank you again to everyone who brought greetings here today. I know we will have the next consecutive monthly picket action, which I'll announce in a second. I really look forward to hearing about the case of Alex Saab direct from Miami, and then also hearing from people that have been in Venezuela participating in the Sao Paulo Forum this past week. So lots to look forward to there, and appreciate everyone who's joined us here tonight. Thank you again to ROIGAR Lopez from the Free Alex Saab Movement, Michelle Mujanatu, who is a New York-based union member and international solidarity organizer, Dr. Maria PÁEZ VICTOR, one of the founders of the Louis Riel Bolivarian Circle, and to Professor Luis Acuna for joining us tonight, along with all of our greetings and other participants. If folks haven't had a chance to scroll through the chat, now is a good time. We're going to start promoting people to join us as panelists. You'll get an invitation on your screen that will say, would you like to rejoin as a panelist? If you'd like to join, say yes, and then you'll be able to turn on your camera and join us for a group photo. So look out for that invitation. It should pop up on your screen. And if you don't get the invitation, raise your hand if you want one, and we will catch you. I also wanted to thank everyone in the chat. Many supportive comments from Venezuela, coming from different parts of Canada and Quebec, as well as from the UK. We have Katarina here with us, who's been sharing about their important campaign in the United Kingdom around especially releasing Venezuela's stolen gold. The Bank of England has refused to hand over Venezuela's gold to them, and that is an important campaign and a campaign against these sanctions and attacks. So thank you to everyone. The next online picket action will happen on a Tuesday as well. That's Tuesday, December 20th, 4 p.m. Vancouver time, 7 p.m. Toronto time, and 8 p.m. now Caracas time. So watch out for that information in your inbox and emails, and mark that in your calendar. It'll be great to see you all again. Again, you should be getting an invitation to join as a panelist to tonight's picket action. We're going to unite our voices and turn on our cameras. If you're not quite able to turn on your camera yet, you will be given the permission shortly. So just have a little bit of patience. But we are all looking forward to joining our voices here together tonight. I think it's been an excellent picket action. Of course, I would be amiss to not thank our excellent interpreters tonight. Anna and Julieta have both been working really hard to make sure that this webinar could be in both English and Spanish. Grateful to them for their hard work and dedication, especially when dealing with us who often speak too fast for one another, but we really, really appreciate that. It looks like we're getting a few more folks to join in for the photos. Thank you again, everyone. We'll just send out one more round of invitations. Again, if you have not received an invitation yet, please raise your hand and we will be sure to send you one, and you will be able to turn on your camera. Then we'll go ahead and turn off the interpretation and be able to unmute our microphones and chant all together as if we were in a street action. There have been some, being here on Zoom is excellent to be able to connect internationally with one another. I wish we could all be in person in Miami on December 12th to show our support for Alex Saab, but we will continue uniting in this space online also as best as we can. So I think everyone that would like an invitation has now gotten one. I'm going to get my own sign. As if you think we can allow people to speak, that would be excellent. Again, thank you from the Venezuela Peace Committee, Winnipeg, Fire This Time Movement for Social Justice, Venezuela Solidarity Campaign, and Just Peace Advocates for coming out today. Let's continue to unite our voices and demand free Alex Saab.
Free
Free
Alex Saab.
Alex
Free
Saab.
Alex Saab.
Free Alex
Free
Saab.
Alex Saab.
Free
Alex
Alex
Saab.
Saab.
Hands off
Free
Venezuela.
Hands
Hands
up.
off
Venezuela.
Venezuela.
Hands off Venezuela.
Hands off Venezuela.
Venezuela.
Free Alex Saab.
Great to see all your beautiful faces.
Alex Saab.
We will see you again.
Alex Saab.
Muy bien a ver todos los carros muy, muy guapas. Estamos aquí a decir que libertad para Alex Saab, freedom for Alex
Libertad
Saab.
para Alex Saab.
Libertad.
Good night, everybody.
Libertad.
Gracias.
Buenas noches.
Gracias.
Buenas noches.